Cue the cheesy podcast music.
Welcome to Megafest, where we don't just manifest, we Megafest. I'm your host, Megs Malloy. I'm creating a community of silly and soulful working moms who are mostly happy, but know they're capable of more. More self-love, more self-esteem, more self-trust, more calm, joy, natural highs, more magic in the world, and more laughter. Each week, me and my guests will bring you tips and tricks on how to make the most of your one precious life. And we're going to make them effective and efficient because ain't nobody got time for that. I believe in you. I see the light in you. I want you to shine your light. I want you to become all that you're capable of. So let's hang out. Let's Megafest together. Welcome back. Hey, you made it back. Great to be with you. I am so excited about today's episode. My dear internet friend, Alissa Boyer, is here to share her wisdom and experience of being a highly sensitive person. Alissa and I met in May of 2020. We were both taking the Made to Do This program by Kathy Heller, and we got put into an accountability group together. There were 5 of us originally, and oh my goodness, I could not even believe when I found out, okay, this girl Alissa is going to be in our group. I went to her Instagram page. My first reaction was, oh my goodness, this woman is a model. She is strikingly beautiful with her bright blue eyes and long blonde hair and pretty smile. But it wasn't just all looks. Let me tell you, she is the nicest, sweetest, smartest, well-spoken gal I have met in a long time. I've taken great pride in watching her journey from starting out as an HSP writer, but then she became an HSP mentor. And her business just totally blossomed, and she is crushing it now because she is able to take her experience and share it in a way and articulate it in a way that really resonates with people who are going through the same thing. Now she's got all kinds of courses and experiences, ways for HSPs to learn and work with her. And I am so proud of Alissa. And I'm so glad that she's here to talk with you because she has so much to offer. Even if you're not a highly sensitive person, you're going to want to listen to everything that she has to say. We talk about how do you know if you're in alignment, how to calm your nervous system, and how to create boundaries. Wow. If you know nothing else, take those 3 things and you're going to have a happier life. So here's the official bio for Alissa. Alissa Boyer is a mentor for highly sensitive people, otherwise known as HSPs. She has a passion for helping fellow HSPs learn how to unapologetically embrace their sensitivity and use it as a strength in their lives. She's the creator of several online programs, including the Highly Sensitive and Soulful Membership and Sensitive and Soulful Self-Worth. Alissa also offers business mentoring to HSPs. She hosts a podcast called The Sensitive and Soulful Show, and she writes for the award-winning HSP blog, Highly Sensitive Refuge. There must be no other person so in tune with their sensitivity and making it a superpower for themselves. You go, girl. Before I forget, the word of the day, I know you're wondering, Megs, what could it be today? Well, the word of the day is spark. Spark meaning interest or passion that lights a fire in a person's life. The core of who a person is and how they want to engage in the world. A spark brings happiness and joy and can ignite a spark in other people too. Alissa did a great job of using the word of the day, so be on the listen for that. And without further ado, here is the beautiful inside and out, the articulate, the smart, the kind, the boundary queen, my internet friend, Alissa Boyer. Yay, Alissa is here.
Woohoo! Happy
Welcome
to be here.
Megafest. Yay.
Thank you.
Alissa, you are just so beautiful inside and out, and I'm just so grateful that you are here to impart your wisdom and experience on who's listening today.
Oh, thank you.
I've really been hoping that you could come on for a long time. Yeah. We'll get into all the things, but first, in Megafest, it's a party, so I always ask, what will you have to drink?
Ooh, I'm a fan of red wine. I love me a good glass of red wine, so I'll be having a nice Cabernet. I mean, not really, because it's like 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. So I actually have water, but ideally I would have just a nice glass.
Yeah, that's what you're going to have at a party. Good.
Yep.
At a party, a lot of times Americans ask, oh, what do you do for work? But that's no fun, right? We're here to have fun. So what are you famous for?
Ooh, what are you
to talk about
for?
Today?
Good stuff. So I work with highly sensitive people, otherwise known as HSPs. I'm a mentor for my fellow sensitive souls in the world. So that's what I do, and I'm so grateful. I help through different online programs and through my Instagram account and my podcast. So I'm doing that for a couple of years now, and it's just like the best. Lights me up. It sparks joy.
Yes, good job. Now, what is your, I'll give the listener the whole spiel at the end, but let's hear, what is your podcast called?
The Sensitive and Soulful Show. Yeah.
All right.
I've been doing that for like over a year now, which is crazy, but yeah, and it's just pretty much all solo episodes for HSPs.
Yeah, and you're offering a lot of great advice and personal experience in those episodes. So for those who don't know yet, what is an HSP? And is that, I think it's you say a personality trait, right?
Yes. Yeah. So a highly sensitive person, somebody who's highly sensitive has a trait called sensory processing sensitivity. So yeah, it's a trait. A lot of people hear this and they're like, oh, is this a diagnosis? Do I have to go to a doctor? No, not at all. I compare it to being like an introvert or an extrovert. Some people are just more highly sensitive. So what that really looks like and feels like is an HSP is going to be more sensitive to their environments. So more sensitive to stimuli. They're going to notice the lights in the room, the scents. They're going to be picking up more of people's facial expressions. We just notice the subtleties in the world around us because we're just more hardwired to see these things. We process on a deep level. We are more emotionally sensitive. So HSPs are usually the person who cries easily at the sad commercial. We have a ton of empathy. We tend to be like that caregiver type of person. Yeah, it's a beautiful trait, but there's challenges to it, of course, because being sensitive in a non-sensitive world has its challenges. We get overwhelmed and overstimulated more easily sometimes because we're simply filtering less of the world out around us. So we can get more frazzled easily. If you have a busy day or back-to-back meetings, we can quickly become overwhelmed. So a person, if this is resonating with them, you can actually take a self-test online. It's on the website hsperson.com. This is the website of the woman who coined the term back in the 1990s, Dr. Elaine Aron, and you could just see how you score on that test.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to go and check that out too, because I think I have some on the spectrum of HSPs. I'm there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it. I'm not really too much of too all into anything, but I'm sure there are some people who just have a hard time dealing with they can become overwhelming so quickly. And awareness is the first key, is the first key to change, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I've been so passionate to spread the word about being highly sensitive, because so many people don't know about it. It's still so many people are just finding out about it because it's really, again, was only started to be talked about really in the 1990s. So it's fairly new. I mean, it's been around forever, but this term, and yeah, having the awareness helps because then you know how to take care of yourself. And then you kind of a lot of HSPs have a lot of shame for being sensitive. Oh, why do I care so much? Or why why does this bother me and it doesn't bother other people? And when you know there's a term and it's like how you're just naturally wired, I don't know, for me it's very freeing, and I hear that from a lot of people as well. But like it is a spectrum, so like some people are going to rank really low on the sensitivity spectrum, and others are like, you know, answer yes to every single question on that self-test. So we all have our own range and unique sensitivities.
Yeah, yeah. And for some people, it could be more physical or more emotional. Like I was reading some of the comments on one of your posts, and somebody said, oh, I just really cannot stand it when water drips down, like when I'm washing my face or something. And I'm like, yes, now I know. I didn't know that bugged me, but it does. But maybe it doesn't drive me crazy. So
yeah,
there's the spectrum.
That bugs me.
Yeah. I do believe that if somebody were to find out that they were an HSP, that could really spark a positive change in their life.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, for sure. And that's been the coolest thing, because I found that my page is often where a lot of people just learn they're an HSP for the first time. And it's like, I always hear like, oh my gosh, I feel like so free, or I feel like so much permission to be myself for the first time in my life. And some of these people are like older, you know, I have people in my community who are in their 70s or 80s who are just finding this out. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is the first time in my life I actually feel like it's okay to be me. I mean, it's crazy that that's the experience that we have, but like we live in a society that doesn't necessarily tell you, oh, it's okay to be sensitive. We hear like, oh, just grind, don't show your emotions, don't care too much. And so those of us who are more of like gentle, soft souls feel like we have to like harden our shell. Hearing that it's okay for the first time is like, wow, it can be life-changing.
And also that other people are like that too, that they're not so alone. They're not alone in this world of being sensitive.
Yeah, that's one of the hugest things, because there's so much shame around it. And so it's like when we hear from other people like, oh, the water dripping down my arm really bugs me, or like I need to sleep with the room at 68 degrees, like whatever, like it just is like, oh, okay, like I'm not the only one. It's so helpful.
Yeah. And I think society kind of like labels people like that too, or like, oh, you're a diva, or you're a this or that.
Yeah. And how many of us, like, I definitely heard that I was dramatic or making things a big deal. And then it's like a lot of sensitive people then don't want to actually express themselves. They start to like suppress and become people pleasers and go along with everyone else because they heard they were dramatic or a diva, for just having these needs that really do affect them. So it's like such a layered, complicated thing sometimes.
Yeah. And that sort of suppressing your spark can cause depression too, ultimately, I think.
My gosh, completely. I mean, that's like been that was my story. I wasn't depressed, but before I learned I was a highly sensitive person, and before I was doing this work, I had really bad anxiety. Like I was out of alignment is what I learned later on in my life, because I was like working in a corporate job. I was trying to mask my sensitivity. I was grinding myself to the bone. I wasn't taking good care of myself because I didn't see examples of that. I just didn't know how to take good care of myself, honestly. And so it was really interesting. Like when I found out I was a highly sensitive person, and when I started to take better care of myself by like meditating and practicing yoga and things like that, started to feel better. And then when I started writing and blogging about my experience, that's when literally my anxiety subsided so much. And that's how I know I was totally out of alignment. I was totally like, you know, not being true to myself, and now like being in tune with my sensitive nature and sharing about it. Like, it's like my soul was like, yeah, this is what I've been wanting you to do. And our bodies will speak to us and scream at us until we kind of like shift into like what we're here to do. At least that's my belief.
Oh, I second that wholeheartedly. I'm going to give you an amen, because that is so true. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up today was alignment. And that's where awareness comes into play, but also being aware of your strengths, and being a highly sensitive person is a strength, and then honoring that and leaning into it. So step one, being aware. Step of like, what is your body telling you what makes you anxious? And then step 2, kind of leaning into your strengths and loving yourself for that and finding people like you. And then just 3, like living in alignment, what does your soul want?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's been my journey, and it's a winding journey, and it definitely takes courage when we are stepping off the path that's laid out for us. It's like we decide to go a different way and like tune in and listen to ourselves. It's scary. There's all these reasons why we should just turn around and not do this, and we feel like we don't fit in and whatever, but like when we do decide to go that other way and be courageous and step into it and step into our alignment and our soul's purpose, it's like that opens us up to is amazing. Like, but it's scary and uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It is. I know I've had my own journey with that, and it continues. Like you're saying, it's a winding, never-ending onion of, or blossoming.
So true. Yes.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned, Alissa, was that you were working at a corporate job. I was too, and a lot of the listeners could be working full-time, trying to grind through whatever their life circumstances are. Maybe they're possibly dealing with health issues, things like this, or health issues of their husband. And one thing I've noticed that you are so good at, and one thing I've noticed that helped me immensely, was calming my nervous system. Because once I did that, then I could really process all the other things that were emotionally going through me. So what is your best advice for calming your nervous system? Like, what's your go-to techniques?
I mean, I'm so glad you bring this up because it's so important. And I just have to say, like, I always tell highly sensitive people that we have to learn how to manage discomfort and expand our tolerance for discomfort, because we live in a world that's crazy and chaotic sometimes, and it's not sensitive and it's not going to slow down for us. So it's like we have to have tools in our toolkit so that we can calm ourselves amidst anything that's going on, because otherwise, like, all we're going to do is just hide out at home and like avoid everything. And that's just not the vibe. Like, I'm not here to do that, and I don't think most people want to live that way. So yeah, nervous system regulation has been so key. My favorite personal technique is emotional freedom technique, otherwise known as tapping, EFT tapping. I use that literally every day. So if people aren't familiar, it's a self-regulating technique where you tap on different acupressure points on the body. So it's like on your face and collarbone, head, and under your armpit, and you state different phrases, and it helps you to release emotions, and it helps you to calm and regulate your system. And I mean, seriously, in like 5 or 10 minutes after doing it, like, a lot of people, you'll feel just like a lightness. Like, sometimes I'll yawn or people will cry, like you'll feel a release, and it's like immediate sensation, which to me is so satisfying, especially when I'm really anxious or really like ramped up. It's like, whoa, like doing that is huge. So that's my personal favorite. I'm also a fan of meditation and exercise. Like, I love doing like Pilates or yoga. I find that very regulating. So there's so many great things, and I think it's important to just like find what works for you specifically.
Definitely.
This is an awesome episode of Megafest, but I'm just going to call a quick TO to tell you about the Soulgasm Society. My mission is to create a community of supportive and uplifting women who want to know how to make their one short precious life all the more joyful, add in some play and celebration, and learn the science behind how do you make your brain happy, all the techniques on how to calm your nervous system, and how to not fly off the mommy hamster wheel, because we can't all stop working, and you can't really get rid of your kids for more than 2 weeks. You gotta deal with it, and the best way to make your life happy is from the inside out. If you're not gonna do it for yourself, do it for your kids. They will see a difference. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, and there is so much truth to that. So the Soulgasm Society is your answer. Come join us. You can click the link in the bio of my Instagram or the link in the show notes. I can't wait to have multiple simultaneous soulgasms with you. All right, now back to Megafest.
about therapy?
My gosh.
Are you a big advocate of therapy?
Yeah, I definitely am. And I'm currently in therapy myself. Like as a new mom, I was like, just like, holy crap, this is overwhelming. This is a lot. So I've been seeing a therapist. And I don't always have a therapist, but at certain times in my life for sure. And I always recommend that to the HSPs I work with too. Like I never tell people, because like I'm a mentor and I definitely help HSPs, but I'm not a therapist. And so I'm like, do this work in conjunction with a therapist as needed. So yeah, definitely having somebody just to support you who's literally there for you, I think we all need that in some capacity at some point or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had my fair share of therapists as well. And thank goodness for them, because you start to get their voice in your head too. As you work it out with them, then you're better able to kind of learn those techniques too.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, for sure. It's like it just gives you that outside perspective, because we can get so lost in our thoughts in our own lives. And when we have that perspective, it's like, oh, like just causes you to think differently.
Yeah. And I love the idea of tapping, because that immediate release, or, within a 5 to 10 minutes is so empowering. And I remember a time when I would go for pot to have that like, oh, I need like a better state of mind right away, and just, have some pot and then you're good. But you don't want to be, for me now, I prefer natural highs. So, so to be able to do that for yourself when, at any time, and really you can do that sitting at your desk or driving in the car. Would you recommend those things? Like, is it safe to drive and tap?
I probably should not say yes, because I don't want anyone to do that and be like, she said it was okay.
Yeah.
So I'll get in trouble. But you know what you can do is there's a point on your hand. It's called the gamut point. It's another acupressure point, and it's between your ring finger and your pinky. It's like the soft part between that like little bone, like in between there. You can literally like be at work and like hold that under your desk. And that's actually hits on an acupressure point that is calming for your body too. So that's something that you can do. I guess probably still hard to do that while you're driving, but maybe have some like deep breathing while you're driving or something. But just having like those little things that you can turn to get that immediate release and not have to turn to a substance, I can totally relate, is so important. A lot of times, like I can personally say, like I wanted to numb out a lot in the past before I knew I was highly sensitive and how to take care of myself, because it's a lot to be sensitive. It's a lot to like feel all the things. We need to have that toolkit of healthy coping mechanisms, because otherwise it can be tempting to turn to things that are not healthy in the long run for us.
Right. I think of it like emotional metabolism. Like you're getting so much input, like food or anything else, and then you got to process it, and it kind of almost sometimes goes through your body. Some stress comes in at a physical cost to us at times, and eventually it will pass. But if you try and hold on to it, or if you don't release it, then it can wreak havoc on our relationships and our physical being. So,
oh my gosh, that's such a good way to say it, emotional metabolism. Like, yeah, that's totally it. And what's interesting is a lot of highly sensitive people have chronic illnesses. A lot of them will have like chronic migraines or digestive issues. I had digestive issues for years. I wasn't processing my emotions. I wasn't handling stress in a healthy way. So it was like staying stuck in my body and literally making me sick. So it's just like, you're completely right. We have to have ways to move that through. Otherwise, our body is going to yell at us and say like, hey, I need you to take better care of me. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah. And I like that you refer to it as a toolkit. Whatever is going to work for you, find, maybe breath work works for you, or tapping works for you, or meditation, or walking, or whatever it is. Having all of those at your disposal and kind of knowing which one to use when is definitely super important.
Yeah. I mean, I always told my HSP clients, like, put on your armor for the day. So I'm with you on those terms, like whatever works to help. Like, people just need to know the importance of it. And it can be one of those things too, where it's like easy to like have it fall off your off your plate, you know, like we're busy. So it's like, oh, I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have time to whatever, stretch or do EFT tapping, but like it adds up. And I certainly notice when I fall off, like I find myself getting way more reactionary, having way less patience. And so it's like, it's so worth it and so important to build that as a daily practice into your life, because it kind of, another analogy that I like is like you're building up a bank account essentially. So it's like all of these practices are like giving you more patience and more like calm. And so when those stressful, overwhelming things happen, it's like you have like a bank of calmness built up where you can handle it more, versus if you're already at the end of your rope, it's like that one thing, your kid crying, it's going to set you off and you're going to freak out because you haven't had that time to yourself. It's like we need to build that in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like like filling up your own cup.
Yeah, exactly. Who knew how important that was?
I know. And you mentioned armor, and that brings me to the next thing that I think you are so good at is creating boundaries. So tell me, what does it look like for an HSP or anybody really to create boundaries?
So to me, boundaries are a way that we can communicate to people like how we expect to be treated, what we are and are not okay with. And I also think of boundaries as a way that we can protect what matters to us, what's important to us, like what's a priority in our lives. When people don't have boundaries, and I used to really struggle with them, you're going to probably feel resentful. You're going to look at your day and see that you're not doing anything that you want to be doing because you're always saying yes to everyone else, and you're giving away all of your time and energy to others, and you're not making time for yourself. I always think of resentment as a really good indicator that a boundary needs to be set. If your friend's always calling you and you're resentful because you feel like it's very one-sided, like you probably need to set a boundary. If you never have time for yourself, you probably need to set a boundary. So that's always like a really clear indicator for me. And it's something I've had to really, really work at. And it was not natural for me at all because I'm a total recovering people pleaser. I hated letting people down. I always felt guilty. Especially when you're highly sensitive, like you have to protect your peace. Like you have to have time to take good care of yourself. And also brings it back to alignment. If we have no boundaries, we're going to spend all of our time doing these things that are completely out of alignment with us, thus making us feel sick and unhappy and frustrated. So they're everything. They're challenging, especially when you've been used to always saying yes to everyone else.
Absolutely. So other people could find them challenging too. So how do you deal with when somebody has a problem with your boundary or is not accepting your boundary?
The nervous system regulation techniques are actually so valuable in moments like this because, again, it's like all about expanding our tolerance to deal with stress and discomfort. And so someone being pissed at us and not agreeing with us is going to bring us discomfort. It can cause us to like have that trauma response where we go into fight or flight or fawn and we're like, oh, okay, forget it. I take it back. Or, you know, like it just can bring up these uncomfortable feelings. So I always say like having a practice to handle the feelings that come up is so important. So like for me, if somebody is not happy with my boundary, sometimes I will feel guilty, like, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad person. And so for me, I'll like do a little EFT tapping, okay? Do some tapping around feeling guilty, try to release that feeling, and then, you know, communicate that to the person, like, hey, I totally understand that you're upset with this, but I'm standing firm. This is important. I have to protect my peace, or I have to protect my time. Like, you can decide how to word it, but having ways to like work through what comes up is important because there's usually something deep-seated that comes up when we feel really scared or uncomfortable, or like after setting our boundaries.
Brings up so many points for me. So it has to do a little bit with like self-worth, right? Because it's like, my boundaries are important. My needs are important too. I wanted to ask you, so what would you say to yourself? Like, let's say that you started to feel guilty. So like, what is something that you would tap to kind of regulate that?
For sure. So it would be like, you know, even though I'm feeling guilty, I love and accept myself. That's always something, because it's like you want to acknowledge and validate yourself for having that experience. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm like, how could I be feeling guilty? That's ridiculous. Like, no, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I feel guilty, like my needs matter. Like I am deserving of having time to myself. I am still a good person even when people are upset with me. Their reaction does not mean that I'm a bad person. Like we're each so unique that whatever comes up for you is going to be very specific to you. So it's like for me, a lot of times I would feel selfish, and that would be the word that comes up. So like just having like a phrase that really like invokes that emotional reaction in you when you're doing tapping, for instance, is going to be the most powerful, because then it's like you really feel it and then you can release it. And it is also, like you said, very much tied to self-worth. We have to feel deserving of these boundaries, otherwise we're going to give in. And it's scary to let people down. It's scary to deal with the discomfort of someone being upset with us. So there's a lot to it. Like it's not easy at first.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway, besides all the other takeaways, is just it takes practice, and that for setting boundaries, for learning to calm your nervous system, learning what are your triggers, learning to be in alignment. It takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process.
Yeah, totally. And that's something like I always hear from the people in my community is they'll have these times where they're like, oh, I knew what to do. I knew the right thing to do, but I let them walk all over my boundary, or I fell back into my old patterns, and they feel so guilty and they feel like they failed. And I'm like, no, it's like, it's human. We're not going to handle things perfectly every time. And that's okay. It's all about like, how do you get back up the next time? You just try again the next day. It's okay. And it's practice, like you said, and eventually it becomes more ingrained and more natural for us. But it's like, you just keep at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been one way for years. It's not like we can just like shift overnight.
Switch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flip the switch. Yeah. And that, when you were giving that example, one of your mentees was saying, you know, I didn't do it right. It's like, that is motherhood every single day. When you have a child who's testing you, it's just talking back to you. It's like, you're going to have lots and lots of opportunities to try again. And you do feel so bad when you don't get it right. Cause it's like, you know, all the things you say to yourself, like, I should have known, you know, they deserve better, or why didn't I do it right? And you know, it's just an opportunity for me, I try to apologize to my kids if I don't get it right. Say, oh man, I could have handled that better. It would have been better if I had done this. And next time I'll, you know, try a different way. And it gives them permission to, you know, not be perfect too.
Totally. Yeah, I was going to say, that's like such a great thing to model for them to see, like, oh, everyone makes mistakes. It's okay. It's how we try again the next time, and I'm going to mess up again, and that's okay. That's, you know, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Yeah, I can imagine I'm going to have so many lessons in motherhood. I'm already learning a lot, like 7 months in, so I got a lifetime to go.
I know. Blaine is going to be, do you think your daughter, is she going to be, she's 6 months old, is that right?
She's 7 months old, yeah.
Is she a new soul or an old soul, do you think?
I think she's an old soul, but she's different than me. I don't think she's highly sensitive. She's very, very active. She's very, like, energetic and quite social from what I can tell. I don't know. It's so fun to watch her grow. But I don't know. She seems like she's very curious. I'm like, I don't know. She might have been here before. Verdict is still out, though. We'll see.
Well, she sounds like a boss babe.
She is,
and yeah, she's got a very energetic spark in her.
Spark, yes.
Alissa, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you feel like you are called to share with the person listening today?
Ooh, I feel like we covered a lot of good stuff, but I always just want to reiterate to anyone who is resonating with this message, like if you're just hearing about high sensitivity for the first time, like I just want to send you a lot of love and like really validate for you. Like there's nothing wrong with you if you are highly sensitive, despite what anyone in your family or friends or whoever, like whatever people have said to you. Like being sensitive is a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to encourage you, if it's resonating, like look into it, learn more about it, because it's so eye-opening when you start to learn this about yourself and learn how to take good care of yourself. Like it can be a real superpower. That's what I gotta say. This sparks passion in me.
Yeah, it really does. And you're so good at it. And Alissa, you are changing people's lives. You're bringing light and love to this world and empowering people to shine their light and love themselves. And that is the kind of generational change that this world needs, is more people who accept themselves and love themselves, and then they can go out into the world with that kind of vibration and spread it around. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for all that you're doing. I'm so grateful I got to be on your show and help spread the message. So right back at you, friend.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Isn't Alissa the real deal? She's just so good. She knows so much about being a highly sensitive person and just really a person in this world. She has been through so much and worked through her own limiting beliefs, her own learned behaviors to really bring that joy and happiness into her life and help others cultivate that in their lives too, with learning how to be aware of their emotions, how to feel more in alignment, how to listen to their body, how to calm their nervous system, and how to create boundaries so that we don't take on the weight of the world. And we make sure that our own cup is filled up, because we can only really serve others from a place of fullness. We can only really help others when our own check engine light isn't on. Please add more Alissa Boyer to your life. She is going to help you so much. She's taught me so much, and I know that highly sensitive archetype quiz, and you too will learn more about yourself and learn to love yourself even more. Her Instagram is Life by Alissa, Alissa, and she has so many great resources at her website, which is sensitiveandsoulful.com. If you found this episode even a little bit inspiring, or you learned something new, go ahead and leave a review, share it with other people, because this stuff is too good to just keep to yourself. We want everybody to find their spark and light up the sparks of others, right? I think it's been an awesome episode, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week. But in the meantime, don't just manifest, Megafest!